Let's start with something uncomfortable but familiar. Most people don't feel poor because they don't earn enough. They feel poor because money seems to disappear faster than it arrives. Paycheck comes in, bills go out, and whatever remains evaporates quietly, without drama, without warning, without a clear villain to blame. There is no single bad decision, no obvious mistake, just a constant sense that you're running, but the finish line keeps moving further away. What makes this especially confusing is that life looks fine on the surface. You have a job, maybe a decent one. You pay your bills on time. You're not reckless. You don't feel extravagant. In fact, you probably feel careful. And yet, despite all of that, there's never enough margin. Never enough slack. Never that moment where you finally feel caught up. The stress doesn't spike. It hums. Low, constant, exhausting. This is not accidental. Modern life is designed to drain money quietly, in ways that don't feel like spending. The danger isn't big purchases. It's the slow normalization of costs that used to be optional and are now mandatory. You don't feel like you're choosing to spend more. You feel like you're choosing to survive. A few decades ago, financial pressure came from obvious sources: big purchases, emergencies, clear mistakes. Today, pressure comes from participation. Just existing in modern society requires constant financial output. Not luxury output, maintenance output. The cost of staying functional has risen dramatically, while the sense of progress has disappeared. Take housing, for example. Housing isn't just more expensive now. It's more consuming. In the past, housing was one line item among many. Today, it is the dominant force in most household budgets. It dictates where you live, how long you commute, what schools your kids attend, how stressed you feel, and how flexible your life can be. You don't choose housing based on comfort anymore. You choose it based on fear. Fear of bad schools, fear of unsafe neighborhoods, fear of being priced out forever. So, you stretch. You buy or rent at the edge of what you can afford, because that's what everyone around you is doing. The payment becomes normal. It doesn't feel reckless because it's common. And that's the trap. When unsustainable costs become normalized, they stop feeling dangerous. They start feeling inevitable. The same thing happened with transportation. Cars used to be tools. Now they are requirements layered with expectations. Reliable, safe, fuel, efficient, technologically updated, presentable. Not luxurious, just acceptable. The floor has risen. You don't buy a car to impress anyone. You buy one so you can function. But the baseline cost of functioning has climbed steadily upward. Healthcare followed the same pattern. It didn't just get more expensive. It became more complex, more fragmented, more confusing. You don't know what things cost until after you've used them. You don't shop rationally. You comply. You hope insurance covers enough. You accept bills you don't fully understand, because fighting them costs time, energy, and emotional bandwidth you don't have. Education quietly joined the list. Not because everyone goes to private schools or elite universities, but because the path to opportunity became narrower and more expensive. Parents aren't chasing prestige. They're chasing safety. Safety from bad outcomes. Safety from falling behind. Safety from regret. And safety is always priced at a premium. What ties all of this together is that modern costs do. They feel defensive. You're not spending to get ahead. You're spending to avoid falling back. And psychologically, that changes everything. When spending feels defensive, you don't question you justify it. You internalize it. You tell yourself this is just how things are now. And slowly, without noticing, your entire income gets absorbed by maintenance. This is why so many people feel like their raises disappeared. They didn't disappear. They were claimed. Claimed by systems that quietly expanded to absorb whatever additional income you earned. Not greedily. Automatically. Technology plays a huge role in this, but not in the way most people think. Technology didn't just add new expenses. It changed expectations. Being reachable all the time. Being responsive. Being informed. Having access. Devices became utilities. Subscriptions became infrastructure. You don't consciously decide to spend more. You subscribe once, and then forget. The cost becomes invisible, but permanent. Individually, none of these expenses feel outrageous. That's the brilliance of the system. It doesn't rely on big, painful decisive. It relies on frictionless acceptance. One payment at a time. One upgrade at a time. One convenience justified by exhaustion. Time scarcity is the silent accelerant. When you're busy, tired, and overwhelmed, you spend differently. You pay for speed, for ease, for relief. You outsource tasks you used to do yourself, not because you're lazy, but because you're depleted. Modern life doesn't just drain money. It drains energy first, then it sells you solutions. And because everyone around you is doing the same thing, nothing feels excessive. You're not living extravagantly. You're living normally. That's the most dangerous word in personal finance. Normal. Normal means invisible. Normal means unquestioned. Normal means you don't notice the slow bleed. What makes this worse is that income statistics, they show averages without context. They show growth without friction. They don't show how much of modern income is already pre-allocated before you even touch it. Taxes, housing, healthcare, transportation, insurance, childcare, education. By the time your money reaches you, most of it already has a job. You're not deciding what to do with your income. You're negotiating over leftovers. This is why budgeting feels futile to so many people. Not because budgeting doesn't work, but because there's nothing left to optimize. You can cut small things, but the big drains are structural. And cutting them requires changing how your entire life is organized. The hardest part is that modern financial pressure doesn't look like crisis. It looks like responsibility. You feel mature. You feel grown up. You feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do. And because of that, you don't question whether the system itself is reasonable. Older generations didn't feel this constant pressure, not because they were smarter, but because their lives were built with slack. One income could cover necessities. The second income, if it existed, created margin. Today, margin is gone. Everything is optimized for maximum extraction. Even leisure isn't free anymore. Relaxation comes with a price tag. Streaming subscriptions, paid hobbies, planned experiences. Socializing increasingly happens in commercial spaces. You don't hang out. You spend together. And because these costs are spread out and socially normalized, they don't feel optional. Debt becomes the glue holding it all together. Not reckless debt, strategic debt, responsible debt. Debt used to smooth the edges of a system that no longer allows breathing room. You don't feel irresponsible using it. You feel practical. Until the payments stack. Until flexibility disappears. This is why modern financial anxiety persists even when things are fine. Because fine requires constant performance, continuous income, continuous health, continuous energy. The system assumes nothing goes wrong, but life is defined by what goes wrong. The quiet tragedy is that most people blame themselves. They assume they're behind, that everyone else figured something out they missed. But most people are in the same position, quietly stretched, quietly anxious, quietly wondering when things are supposed to get easier. Modern life drains money, not through excess, but through inevitability, through costs that feel unavoidable, through expectations that feel non-negotiable, through a system that converts income into maintenance instead of progress. Real financial security doesn't come from earning more inside this system. It comes from reclaiming margin, from questioning defaults, from recognizing that many of the costs you accept as normal are actually choices that were made gradually without your consent. The most dangerous financial trap isn't debt or low income. It's a life where every dollar already has a destination before it arrives, where flexibility has been traded for appearance, where stability depends on everything continuing to work perfectly. Modern life doesn't rob you loudly. It doesn't kick down the door. It drains you quietly, one normalized expense at a time, until the absence of security feels like your own fault. Once you see that, the pressure starts to make sense. And when pressure makes sense, you can finally decide whether the life you're maintaining is actually serving you or just consuming you.